Good evening. My name is Thurman Greco, and this show is called Let's Live with Thurman Greco, and it is coming to you from Woodstock, New York, on our public access television station, Channel 23, and then it will come to you on YouTube. And I'm very, very excited this evening because we have a repeat guest, and she is at least the most popular person that comes on this show. We have got the reluctant psychic. So we are here to ask questions and find out what's going on.
Oh,
Listen, start off before we get going,
right.
and I forget. Tell us how we can get in touch with you,
Okay.
how you spell your name, all that
Okay.
stuff.
Me who has many names? Yes. Well, okay. My book is The Reluctant Psychic, and when I wrote my memoir, I used my birth name, even though I don't really think it's my real name somehow, Susan Saxman. But everyone in town knows me as Fiona. And I'm clairvoyant. Perhaps I'm a reluctant clairvoyant, but I do what I do, and I like what I do. But, you know, I've been doing it a long time. Maybe
So where's your
centuries.
shop? Tell us about your shop.
My shop, it's cleverly disguised. I work out of a shop that's cleverly disguised as a normal store, but it's not normal actually. It's nothing's normal in this town. It is a little gothic punk boutique, punk rock, and because I'm from that time in London and all that stuff. But actually that's where I do my readings out of, and it's really, it's a cool little weird little shop in the midst of this town of tie-dyes. I have like black clothes and gothic jewelry and stuff like that. But that's also where I do my readings. And if you want a session with me, you have to go online and schedule, and my little schedule thing is under SusanFionaSaxman.com. And there's a couple of months waiting list to get an appointment with me. I'm booking for February right now.
Oh, that's good. So we've
Yeah.
got Valentine's Day.
Yeah, and everyone wants to come on Valentine's Day because all readings seem to be about love.
What are
Everyone
all
wants to know
readings?
about love?
What are all readings about anyway?
Love.
Are they really?
They really are. Love and communication with people who have died, which is my specialty.
Really?
I specialize with dead people. That's who I talk to. They're my pals. That's what I do.
And people come and they feel a need
Mm-hmm.
to communicate with.
Yeah, and they do, and they are, because there is no question in my mind that our beloved dead are. They don't even like that term. The dead people don't like to be called dead. They find it a very, very rude word. Dead don't want it.
Well, they're not dead.
It's very final, isn't it?
They're not dead.
Even the sound of it. They're just in another realm. They're nearby. They don't have a body anymore. That's all.
Actually, that could be a plus.
It's okay. Bodies hurt. You gotta feed
Yes.
them. You gotta take care of them. Sometimes they get ugly.
And they wear out.
They wear out. They get ugly. They get old.
And it takes a lot of money to keep things going.
You know, when a car gets old, you trade it in, right?
Right.
Well, when a body gets old, you get rid of it and you get a new one eventually. Until then, you just,
You're hanging out.
you're hanging out. They hang out. And heaven's not far. If there is a heaven, it's not far. It's in the other realm, which is right here. It's right here. And, you know, I've gotten to the point after doing this for so long, professionally, for like 38 years, there's no differentiation, is that the word, between living and dead to me.
I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, they're right here. And there's nothing, I mean, we are living in a time when most, I would say 90% of the horror films, and they depict ghosts and spirits as scary and evil and stuff. They're not. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's no reason to be afraid of the dark. Actually, one of the nicest letters I've ever gotten was from a woman in Australia, because I did a book tour down there, New Zealand and Australia. They actually wrote me, a group of people wrote me a letter saying, "You taught us not to be afraid of the dark." And I thought that was really, really cool. I taught the entire continent of Australia. No, I didn't. Not the whole continent, but maybe a couple of people. Not to be afraid of the dark, which is pretty cool.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Because I don't think I'm afraid of anything except humans, which unfortunately we have to live around. Now,
Well,
I mean,
do you
some are
have
okay,
do you
maybe.
have a sense of danger when it is around? Does a
Yeah.
person can develop
Yes.
a sense of danger?
Oh yeah, I think we all naturally have them like an animal. We're all animals, and animals have a sense of danger. I took my dog to the vet this morning, and she was hysterical in the car. She was shaking the whole
Yeah.
ride. They know when something scary is going to happen. We all know when something scary is going to happen,
Yes.
and it's born in us. It's in us until we're taught to be logical. Don't be logical. Never be logical. Just be instinctual. Be intuitive.
Go with what
it's-
you feel.
Go with what you feel. That's what it's about. And don't try to reason it out, because the reasoning it out is what gets you into trouble. And what I do every day, it's all instinctual. Not any of it is actually logical. None of it. How could it be? It's all it just comes through. And what amazes me since the beginning, and I mean I'm a lot more popular now than I was years ago. Perhaps because of the book, but it actually was a steady stream of popularity through the years. And I never advertise. It's all word of mouth. It has always been that way. I think what's interesting is that, for me, is to see that through the years with like with technology and the increase of what people can find out on YouTube and Google and everything, people still want to go to a psychic. And that has not been replaced by technology. They think they can. They some people may think that they can just like go to a psychic on a internet or a computer and see or get a reading. People are still coming to me in droves, and I often wonder. I'm like, why are they coming? But they have a need for a personal connection, a human connection.
Is it a need? Is it a need for just the connection, or is there a need for something beyond the connection?
I think it's beyond. I think this is a very, very ancient profession. Probably one of the world's oldest. Maybe whores are older. I don't know. But, they say prostitution's the oldest profession.
Well,
Maybe psychics are. I don't
maybe
know.
psychics.
Maybe it's. I don't know. Sometimes I feel it's the same.
But
here
when-
they pay and they leave.
when they're looking to have a conversation with a relative or a friend or something, is it to say I'm sorry? Is it to say something that they didn't get to say when the person was alive?
Yeah, but I always tell them they don't need me to say it. They can do it themselves. Sometimes the spirits want to say they're sorry to the people who are sitting in the room.
Oh, really?
So it actually works more the opposite way. The spirits need to come through, and they use me as a conduit.
Okay.
It's the opposite.
So what you're saying is that when sometimes people feel a need to talk to Aunt B or whatever,
Yeah.
it's because Aunt B is nudging them.
To go.
And
Yeah.
so then they start looking
Yeah.
around for a way to
Yeah,
communicate.
that's exactly it. So basically, I'm just a walkie-talkie.
And so
I'm a
Aunt B
walkie-talkie.
wants to say, I'm sorry, or
Yeah.
I miss you, or whatever.
Yeah, or
And-
to tell them something, like the paper stuck in the, I don't know, the dresser that you're looking for. The paper you're looking for is stuck in the metal dresser. That happens a lot.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's really, and I don't know how it works really. I mean, but the one thing there's a few things. I always say the one thing I know. No, I don't know one thing. I know there's a few things that comes through. There's no time. So when we're talking to a person that could have passed 20 years ago, to them, they could have just passed over. There is no time in the afterlife. To us, it may seem like they've been gone forever. To them, it's nothing. Time is man-made. Time is here. Time is not linear.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, today I've had a woman who came to see me today. Her dog, who died like 20 years ago, just popped up saying, "It's not your fault that I died." Her big gray pit bull. She was walking that dog through a park in New York, and it drank from a puddle that had rat poison in it and died. For 20 years, this woman's been carrying this guilt that she should not have walked that dog to in that park. The dog came through today. I didn't know anything about her. I said, "There's a big gray pit bull, a blue pit bull, and he's saying it's not your fault." And she's like, "You don't know how much that made me happy." But that dog died 20 years ago.
Now, did she think that she came to see you for another reason?
It wasn't for that dog at all.
Right, okay,
It was not. It's a free-for-all. Whoever comes through, comes through. And sometimes people they want to talk to don't come through at all. Lately, it's interesting. I've been getting a lot of people coming who want to talk to parents, but some of the parents don't want to come through if they're really Catholic. For some reason, I'm being shunned by the uber conservative Catholics right now. Dead Catholics they're like saying, "Nope, not coming through."
That's interesting.
Some of them, just recently, not all of them. So I put some rosaries on my table.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I just all of a sudden I've been getting like, oh, and she's like, "Well, maybe my mother's not coming through because she was really, really Catholic," and that hasn't happened before. I think they're just like,
that's an interesting thing.
They're just not coming.
Because when I think of a Catholic person, they're kind of open to that.
They're open. I've never had Catholic problems before, except when I went to Catholic school as a child and the nuns used to torture me and beat me. But that was a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't like me. But now it's weird. It's like the spirits are not coming. I'm almost indignant. It's like, "You're not coming through?"
That's because, when you think of the Catholic stories, and
They
when
always
you,
have prophets, don't they?
right, and when you think about, for example, Mother Mary comes through to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And Mary, when you think about the crucifixion, the death of Christ, and then the rising up of Christ, there were people there who witnessed that.
Yeah.
And so that goes beyond, so that goes right in with.
I have clients of every faith. Every faith.
That's wonderful.
Everybody. From Muslims actually have come. Muslims to the Jewish faith to everything.
That's wonderful.
People from India.
So it's not, so coming to visit with Fiona
Pagans.
is not a religious thing.
No,
it's a spiritual
thing. There is no, I don't go with any religion. It's all spiritual.
And do you get a lot of visits with pets?
Oh, all the time, because I love animals so much.
That's
so
wonderful.
all pets come through. All pets, birds, rabbits.
That's wonderful.
I even had some fish come through.
Oh, I think that's wonderful.
Everything comes by. It doesn't matter, because sometimes people look at me and they're like, "Well, we didn't have that budgie for like 40 years." And it's like, it doesn't matter. The budgie just flew through my head.
Yeah.
Because everything wants to be remembered. Everything. Doesn't matter what you are.
So do you ever have an opportunity, does a person ever have an opportunity to have repeat visits with someone?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Could you have
All the
repeat
time.
visits with the purpose of finding out information for a
all
book
the time,
or something like that?
All the time. That happens all the time, but also I always tell people, like, if you want to talk to a deceased loved one, you just do it at home. You don't have to come to me. Keep it open. I actually once did an interview for a magazine where I said, no one needs to come. This probably would be a very bad business decision, but I said, no one needs to go to a psychic. Nobody. You just open yourself and let the information flow through you.
Yeah, but a lot of
You have to
people are
believe.
afraid to open themselves
Yeah,
up.
they
That's
are. That's the thing. It's fear. Fear stops us from everything in life. Everything. It stops us from going out. now especially. I mean, fear stops everything.
It stops us from going out, and fear stops us because of the unknown.
Yeah, fear is a killer of everything. And I mean, there is no fear. No.
Do you find that people are becoming more fearful?
Oh, God, yeah. People are so afraid of everything. Truly.
How can we overcome this?
I truly don't know.
It's a trend, isn't it?
I mean, people, maybe perhaps the news is making it worse. People who watch TV all the time, read, who get into that. The whole conspiracy theories are out of control. I mean, it's ridiculous. I can't even believe the absolute fear that people are instilling in each other through that. It's just, at the end of the day, none of this matters.
Well, that's very true.
We're all going in the same direction at the end, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, wherever we end up. The fact is, you might as well enjoy your life when you're here, when you're alive.
When I think about that, I think about we are all going in the same direction. I don't think, have you ever had an experience where you tried to communicate with someone and you couldn't find them?
Like on the other side?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. A lot of times people just don't want to come through. Or they just are not there, or they just go to what I call oblivion.
What is that?
And oblivion seems to be a space where people go when they don't believe in anything. I think a lot of our afterlife adventures have to do with what will you believe. A lot of the times people believe very much in heaven, they get heaven. If they believe they're going to some kind of hell realm, unfortunately, that's what they get. Depending on what faith you are, you get what you put your faith into. If people don't believe in anything after they die, there's maybe some that are pleasantly surprised of what's out there, and then some that just disappear. They have nothing, they're in no afterlife, they don't believe in anything, and they die and they go to oblivion. They go nowhere. They disappear.
When I teach reflexology or Reiki or anything, whatever, canine animal communication or whatever, I am always happiest when my student is a person who has had some kind of religious training.
Yeah.
And I go with the philosophy that your children get whatever religious training they get as children. And then as they mature into adulthood, they have to take this religious training, which is very rudimentary, and bring it up into their adulthood. And often, by doing that, they have to leave some of these childhood beliefs behind because they're not their childhood.
Yeah.
And so we have a lot of recovering Catholics or recovering Mormons or recovering whatever. Yeah. And I really, really like that.
Yeah.
What I don't like, and not that I don't teach them, but it is more difficult, is a person who has had nothing.
Yeah.
Because then they don't have a starting point.
Yeah, I agree.
They don't have anything to work with. So we have to go right from the beginning and try to give them something so that they have something, because healing is a very spiritual and it can be a very religious experience.
And they have to be open to it too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the same thing when people come for a session. If someone makes them come and it's not their idea and they're closed off, the reading cannot be done.
Oh, really?
If a person comes and it's not just a sense of believing, because I don't want to know anything. I don't want to know about them. But if they sit there and they have walls up and they sit, you can always tell with body language, right?
Yeah.
they sit like this. It's pretty obvious, isn't it?
Yes.
And they'll like say, if you say something, you look at them and they're like, right off, I'm like, no. I don't want to know anything about them. But if they're that will, and I'll be like, did someone make this appointment for you? Yes. You're not supposed to be here. Because obviously
Good
they don't
for
want to
you.
be here.
Good for
and
you.
And that happens. I send them off.
That's
because
great.
You cannot, I cannot work that hard with my wee little brain and try to get them picking stuff out of the ethers, you know?
Yes.
And like, I don't know if I told this story the last time I was there. There was a woman who came. She drove like an hour, and she came in. It was her friend's idea. And she sat down. She had never gone to a psychic or a medium or anything before. And when she sat down, she was like this. And I said to her, I said, wow, there's a man around that loves you very much, and he's very happy that you came today. Yeah, what's his name? And I'm thinking, in my head, I didn't say it out loud, I'm like, well, you know his name, don't you? And she's like, I didn't say it, but I wanted to say. And I'm like, he died of cancer. And she's like this. I'm like, well, did he? And she's like, yeah. And she just like looked at me, and I'm like, I said, you were married to him? Yeah. Finally, I got up and I'm like, I can't do that. I'm not connecting with you.
Him, I'm connecting with you.
And he wanted to come through, and she's like, well, what kind of cancer was it? It was her husband who died of cancer, and doesn't she? You know, she's totally closed. So
Well,
finally, I said, I can't do the reading. Well, we came an hour's drive, and I'm like, basically, I wanted to say, well, your dead husband came down from heaven, and that's longer than an hour's drive, don't you think? And it's sitting right there, and you're trying to ask me what his name was? You know his name? Don't test me at times like this.
That's very interesting.
And so I sent her out. She was crying, and as she left, I was like, look, I talked to her for like a half an hour. Of course, I didn't charge her. But I was like, you're just not open to this. She said, well, I've never been to anyone like before. But I'm like, he's here. He wanted to. So you know he's here. That's it. But I wasn't going to like work like that to try to get the most basic of things out.
That's very true. Years ago, I studied animal communication under Penelope Smith. And Penelope's, that was
I've heard of her.
time, right,
Yeah.
when she was the only one. And she had experiences like that as well. And she taught us that what we should do is say, look, I'm not here to tell you things you know.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm here to tell you things you don't know.
Exactly.
But if they're not going to open up to
They're
you,
not gonna open
why
up.
bother?
And it's just not, I don't even want to hear the words. I just want the energy field to open up.
Yes.
If that and I know that makes sense to you, because
Oh, yeah.
you know, there are some people that you just can't, and it's just like, don't come. You don't need to. You know, and also the fact that she was crying every night and kept wanting him to appear in her bedroom solid. Well, that's not going to happen. For one thing, it takes too much energy for a spirit to do that. It's almost impossible.
Oh, I think that's so cute.
It is cute.
Well,
I
did she drive by herself?
No, she had a friend drive her. But
Well,
there
that's
was
a shame.
there was a woman who once came to me. I maybe told you this story. Who kept saying, she came to me and she says, I'm having a problem. Her husband, who had died, won't leave her alone. And every night she goes to bed and she feels him in the bed. And she's like, what can I do with my husband? He won't leave. He loved her so much. And then she went on, this was funny, she went to stay at an overnight hotel with her girlfriend. And she didn't mention, like, there was a problem with her. Basically her dead husband. So her girlfriend was in the bed with her. And she's like, Mary, what's this thing here? What, do you feel this in the bed? And she's like, oh, that's George. And it's like one of these things, like she's like, Fiona, I don't want him gone, but he doesn't have to be in the bed every night. So some energies, some entities, they don't want to leave. And they think that they're comforting, but they're not a comfort. They're like...
So what did you do?
I just said, I told her to say, it's time to move on.
Yeah.
You know? And I mean...
Go enjoy your new life.
Go enjoy your... Yeah, go and make sure that maybe she had to tell him that she's okay if he was to leave. Because a lot of the times, the only reason that people or dogs stick around is because they're worried about us here.
Yeah.
Mostly it's, dogs are good with that. They want to make sure that we're okay.
Yeah, that is true. You do think about, well, what is going to happen? You know, especially, I'm sure there are women out there who think, what is going to happen when I'm gone? Because women have a tendency to just do everything for their husbands.
Yeah, right.
And all of a sudden, they're gone, and here's this guy who he doesn't know how to work the washing
husbands tend
machine.
to die really quickly after.
Do they really?
Yeah, they do.
Actually, that's good.
Yeah, it's good. They go. And they'll be together. And they'll be, there was there's this disturbing story that I don't mean to, of course I have to say it because it was recently came to me. A woman who came to me like a week ago, and see, this is how things work, and it's sort of like a jigsaw puzzle we have to put together sometimes. This woman sat with me, and she was older, you know, and I couldn't figure this out because as soon as she sat down, and see, this is how it's not like a science with me because it's very like confusing at first. I saw the spirits of 3 children around her. And immediately I thought that she had lost 3 children. Like they were dead, but they were around her, but it seemed like it had just happened. And I said, there's 2 girls and a boy in spirit. And I said, it's really strange. I said, because did you lose 3 children? And she looked at me and she was crying a little. She said, they weren't my children, they were my siblings. And this woman had to be like 70 years old.
Oh my God.
So apparently this was such a kind of a heinous story because her and her mother had gone out. This happened like 40 years ago. And these children still came, the spirits still came across as children.
Wow.
They died as children. But her and her mother had gone to Christmas, midnight mass on Christmas Eve, leaving her siblings behind in bed, and the house burned down. So here, 40 years later, this woman comes to me for a reading, and her siblings came through as children that are around her.
Oh, man.
And I mean, this was so disturbing on so many levels. For one thing, it was Christmas Eve when the house burned down. They had gone to mass, so of course that makes me angry on so many levels because it's like, thanks God for that. How do they have faith after this? Secondly, the 2 oldest children they were fine, pretty much, with having this happen. I don't know how they could have been. But the youngest girl never got out of the cycle. She was because she felt like she could have saved everyone.
Oh my gosh.
For some weird reason, and there was a dog and a cat with her too. And this, through 40 years later, this woman comes for a reading, and her siblings and her dog and her cat are still floating around. So I said, she's like, what do I do? She said, they've been with her whole life. I said, you pray.
Yeah.
Simply pray for them. And I don't think she's a Catholic anymore, but whatever you do, just send energy, light, forgiveness, healing. The spirit of the girl has to forgive herself because she felt that she was responsible for the fire.
Well, and children will do that.
She's carrying this burden her whole life. So, but it was such a heavy reading, and this was last weekend. And a friend of mine said, "Hey, would you like to go out that night?" And I'm like, "Nope, I think I'm going home."
You know, I'm wondering if you run across that, would it be possible to offer some kind of a ceremony to send those children away.
I used to want to do like rescue ceremonies. I think I used to actually. Hearing that kind of thing about the midnight mass and the house burning and stuff made me kind of. I lost a little faith. You know, I feel like, I don't know, kind of made me annoyed.
Well,
I'm sorry, I get annoyed.
No, it's been a long
sometimes.
time since I've heard of stories like that. But
It was so
40 years ago,
40 years ago. She said they were
50
poor.
years
They
ago.
lived in Philadelphia in like a
yeah.
tenement sort of place.
Yeah, when I was growing up, and of course it's because the old houses
The old
then,
houses
we
caught
didn't have
fire.
the wiring, you didn't have the
She said
electricity.
the landlord wanted them out too.
Yeah,
They were behind
so
their rent.
he could have
Yeah,
he
I
could have
think
helped
so. I
along.
think there was a little help along.
Yeah.
You know, it was so crazy. She said she was 18 when this happened.
Oh,
And 40, 50, yeah. 50, 60. Yeah, so I mean, these kind of things. So then I go home and I think about that. And then of course I get annoyed at God, honestly. You know, I get annoyed at like, how could there be I question faith. I have questions of faith. Like, how do these things happen? Should we just say, oh, this happens and these are just one of these things, it was their time? No, I don't go with that, it was their time thing.
what do you go with?
How could it be their fate? How could it was I think it's the folly of humans. I think it was a foul play. I think it was the
Could have been.
cruelty. I think
And-
it was cruelty.
and
I don't
also-
think it was their time. No.
I don't know, but I mean, some cultures, like, I would never leave my children
No.
alone.
No, of course
But
not.
when I was living in Mexico City, I had a German neighbor, and she had a little baby, and she would put the little baby down for its nap in the afternoon and go off and buy the groceries. And for her, that was fine, you know?
No,
And it's
I
like,
wouldn't do that.
whoa.
I wouldn't do that.
Right. But it was, you know, and
It's different.
it was different. So, yes.
No,
And then I've known people, I mean, not recently, but
No,
when I was much
long
younger,
time
60,
ago.
70 years ago, people who were in houses that burned up. And then, of course, you have the animals that
I
are in
know.
there.
It's so, and it's like time stands still. So this is why this whole thing with no time, when I see the whole thing, it's like a movie runs. That's how this, if people ever ask, like, how do you do it? It's a movie in my head.
Hmm.
I look at a person and I see past, present, and future. I see all the times happening at once. I see them young, I see them old, I see them all times, or the timelines are all messed.
And do you
messed
see
up.
them, and you see the future as well?
Yeah.
Do you tell them of the
Yeah,
future?
yeah. But I never see death.
That's interesting.
I kind of like I don't see it unless it's like a horror. I mean, unless it's like a. Sometimes I have to say if it's a physical, like serious illness like cancer, it's I get a physical effect from it. Like I get nauseous or I feel like I'm gonna throw up or something.
And you tell them.
And stomach pains. Usually I'll say go to a doctor, check yourself. I've been known to sit there and do readings where I feel like there's an anvil being punched through my head, and I'll say to a person, I think you should get an MRI, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I was thinking of it because I get really bad headaches. And that's like my way of saying, go get your...
Yeah.
Because I've been doing a little bit more of the, what they would call medical medium things going on. And it's a weird thing too, because I'm obviously not a doctor. I can only go with what, I'm feeling. But that's how this whole thing started. I mean, I remember in the second book that I started to write before this whole thing with the TV thing started, I remember being very young, like maybe 8 or 9, and I was in Catholic school, and this little boy he was a kind of a fat boy that was getting bullied a lot. He had gotten a football, and I didn't have any friends in school. The kids were terrible to me. But this one little boy, the bigger kids got his football and they threw it away, and they threw it over a big fence, and he was sitting there crying. And I was so moved by that I started to cry. And it was really an odd reaction for me, because I was used to being bullied really badly, bullied by the other kids. But this time, it was interesting. I remember his name was Dominic Mamone. He was this little fat Italian kid. I remember to this day, because not only when I looked at him with the football, I remember seeing his father giving him the football. I remember him getting the football. I mean, I never saw it, but I saw his memories. And I remember thinking, can everyone do this? And I saw, it's like past, present, and future.
Wow.
And I remember going home and thinking very hard about this, thinking, why did I see him receiving that football as a gift? Why did I remember seeing his father? Why did I see him? And so it was at that time, I remember going home and looking at animals and thinking, I see in their head too. And I stopped eating meat completely. I remember looking, going, I'm never going to eat meat, because I see what they're thinking. And then I was about 9. And this was not the time of the world when vegetarianism was cool.
Right.
People were trying to stuff meat at me my entire life. And I was like, nope, not going to eat it.
Now,
And
when
I
you
never did.
went home and told your parents that you were not going to eat meat anymore, what did they do?
They threw a fit. I remember my mother, lovely lady, saying, meat's not made from animals. So much for honesty. There we go. That was the start. Yeah, meat's not made from animals. So it begins. And I was like, yes, it is. No, it's not. So I knew it was. And I remember thinking, like, here's everyone, has little cuddly little lamb toys and little Disney things, and you're sitting down, you're eating those? That's crazy to me. It didn't make any sense. And I never ate meat. I never ate meat again. And they fought and they fought and fought, and I never did. And I'm fine. No meat, chicken, poultry, fish. Never.
I think that's.
I'm so proud.
Yeah.
And I'm such a proud vegetarian.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I held my ground all those years. But I mean, the whole thing with the whole timing thing, these are memories from a very long time ago that stayed in my head, that I carried with me my whole life. I mean, Dominic Mamone, he was my friend. That football, I couldn't care less about football or people playing it. But the whole thing is, that memory stayed in me. So now when people come for readings, I look at them, what they're wearing, and I see their memories. I see jewelry and think about, there's flashes of where they got that, or who gave it to them, or the people around them. I see them.
And you see their memories.
Yes, I see
and
memories.
And because you see their
That's
memories,
where I'm able to
that's
talk
what
about
you
the
start
past.
talk about what you see.
The past. I talk about the past.
So they bring their memories to you.
Everyone brings it's like bringing a whole story with them. Everyone comes in and they carry their history, their stories with them. And that's what the readings are. It's not so much, I mean, we can say it's all metaphysical or all spiritual, but I guess there's a science connected to it too. Is it like it's a time thing, I guess. It's being able to see into different time loops. And the future has to do with it too. Like, it feels different. The future feels different than the past. The present feels different. It's all feelings. But sometimes I'll say during a reading, it's like I hear something, but I hear it not in the ears. I hear it back here. Or I'll see something, and it feels like the senses are all mixed up. It's like I see, but not seeing with eyes.
So if you see the future, you see the past, you see the present, you see the future. So we are creating the future.
Yes, we all create our own future, in a sense.
So when people talk about co-creating,
Yeah.
we co-create.
We co-create our attitudes. So if you live in fear, chances are something bad's going to happen. I mean, that's the simplest way of saying it, but you create this whole thing. I know it's a big it's a cliche, we create our own reality, but we create our own reality. We really do. We really do. And God knows I'm not perfect. I'm certainly not. I mean, there's always been massive screw-ups around. But I mean, we do. It's the attitude, it's the energy. I mean, the other thing that's always been a problem is that because of feeling like this, I could sit by a person or my whole life. The energy that flares up from people is almost unbearable sometimes. I remember going to restaurants or anywhere my whole life, and some people I just can't sit next to. I have to change seats, looking like a completely crazy person because I have to keep moving my chair because of the energy that's almost like a fire flaring up from them.
So
I'm not calm, or I'm a very anxiety-ridden person because of this.
Oh, I totally
very
agree. I totally agree with that. Finding all those things happening. But so the message here is that we co-create. So if I am bothered because I cannot create whatever, I don't know, the new automobile out in the parking lot or whatever, then I can work on that. Because you are co-creating.
But I think it's more than co-creating a thing. It's co-creating a thought form. Do you really want to make that automobile out in the parking lot? Do you really? An example of the how crazy life is. Well, life is pretty crazy, and this is just an example of how crazy it is to feel so much. Is my wonderful friend took me last Saturday, I think it was, to see Patti Smith in Kingston, the singer.
Oh,
Patti
really?
Smith. And we're sitting there, everything's fine, cool, calm, everything's great, people are lovely people around, right? We're out, haven't been out in a long time, right? In a concert, right? So the man next to me sitting there has this weird energy. So I don't like the vibe coming from him. It's not bad. He's not perverted or his energy doesn't go with mine. He starts fidgeting and I'm picking it up, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there in the theater and I'm literally building a wall between me and him.
Yeah.
I'm holding the program up. I'm getting my purse up, and before I know it, I'm sitting there like a crazy person, completely blocking this poor man. That my friend was so funny, and my friend turns to me and goes, "Do you need to change seats with me?" Now, under normal people would be like, just be cool, just sit and enjoy the show. Not me. I built the Great Wall of China between me and this poor guy that's sitting there because I can't stand the energy between him and me.
I don't see anything wrong with that. Truthfully, I don't.
I mean, other people would just be like, can't you just calm down? No, I couldn't calm down because the energy was so disruptive to me.
When you run across a person who has energy that is not compatible with you, can you recognize if it is a person who is on drugs or if it is a person who
and
is
this guy was just a harmless guy.
just nothing? It was just his energy.
His energy was so anxious and so disruptive to me that I couldn't sit there. I almost threw myself off the balcony in BS whatever that place is, and it was crazy. But but then I'm laughing at myself because I'm realizing, wow, I must look like a complete freak. I guess I am. But it was so funny because my friend who knows me saw what was going on. He's like, "Do you need to change seats?" I'm like, "Yes, thank you, sir, very much." Because it was insane. But that's what it's like to be me. I can't be around a lot of crowds. I can't because it's overstimulation of energy. I'm not calm.
What kind of advice do you have for a person who doesn't function well in crowds?
Well, I've learned to not focus my eyes anymore when I walk with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't focus. My eyes.
That is a good. For me, that is a very good protection, because if you don't, then they're not there so much.
I'm actually thinking of at one point I wanted to have the blinders the horses use, but I don't have to see. Honestly, it gets really overwhelming, and there are people who are just so cool and calm, and I'm not that. I can't be that. I don't think I can be that and do what I do.
Well,
or there's a whole other way of being, which I've never been that. I never can. And I don't, at this point, I'm not changing. I don't want to learn to change. I am who I am. I'm fine with it.
Well, and the thing is that what you have now, I think, is really nice, because you do offer information and comfort to people, and you're able to live with that.
I think the most important thing, and what I've always try to maintain, is I'm able to laugh at myself. I don't take myself seriously at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I do when I'm doing what I do. I'm serious about that. I know what I believe. I know what's out there. I think I know what's out there. But I don't, I'm not walking around with, I am the great almighty whatever oracle. No, I'm not. Well, maybe I am. But the thing is, I'm not feeling like I know everything. Every day when people come to see me, and they really do, 6 days a week I'm doing what I'm doing, I wake up with my heart pounding, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm able to do this. How am I doing this? How if it doesn't work? Oh my God, it might not work. And then when they open the door, I'm like, hi, how are you? Welcome. And then when I sit down, it works.
Yeah.
It works.
That's muscle memory.
Is it? Is that what it is?
Well, that's what I call it.
So it does. It is actually. It's because I feel it changing. My whole body changes.
Yeah, that's what I call it. I call it muscle memory. But muscle memory is a term that applies to a lot of things, because a lot of times I will get ready to do something, and I'll realize that if I'm going to verbalize what I'm doing, I've already messed that one up. So I just kind of let my brain. And just with my hands will just do it. My body will just do it. Well, and it does it, and it bypasses the verbalization part, the thinking part.
Well, I love, I have to always remind people, and people know this, but we are all animals. Humans are animals.
Right.
And animals instinctively know things, and it's funny how, since I've had Ghost, my little tiny, everyone loves Ghost, my tiny pit bull. Everyone who comes for readings, she responds. She usually sleeps during the readings every time for the last 2 years. But recently, she's been sitting on my lap when I'm doing it. So I'm doing what I'm doing with people, and I have this little white pit bull.
She's protection.
She's protection. She sits like a gargoyle now on my lap. Mm-hmm. And what's funny is when particularly nice people come, she ends up nodding off to sleep on my lap. And recently, she'll be falling asleep and bump her head on the thing. I'm like, whoa, is that woman, are they really nice, or are they really boring? She nods off to sleep. Have you ever seen a dog nod off to sleep and hit their head on the table? And the people get such a kick out of it. But it's like, whoa, the energy must be really subdued in here today.
Well, that's wonderful as it is, because the energy out there is.
Oh, I know. People love to come in and sit with. But I mean, really, I have a gargoyle perched on me now, who sometimes falls asleep.
That's great.
It's entertaining. I mean, I couldn't ask for better. Well, it's an interesting job, isn't it?
But people are so upset nowadays.
You bet they are.
And I don't know what we're gonna. I don't know what we can
it's
do.
interesting. I get the a torrent of the anti-vaxxers coming in. I get the vaccine people. I've got the I got the mask people. I've got the. I still get Trumpers coming in. I don't know what to do. I have to hide my Trump voodoo doll when they come in.
You know, I think they've been sold a bill of goods.
I don't trust anything.
Huh?
I don't trust anybody.
And then what are you going to do
I can't do anything.
when they find out they've been sold a bill of goods? Right.
It's not for any of us to try to convince anyone else of anything.
No, I don't.
They have to find out for themselves.
Everyone has
It's
to.
not, whatever people want to do, whoever they want to believe, it's not for me to say
Right,
that's
one
not
way or the
right.
other. Right.
They come in, they find out for themselves. Because basically, underneath it all, nobody's bad. I mean, well, maybe they are. I don't know. I just contradicted myself again. But really, I really don't have truly evil people coming in. Ghosts would not allow them in the store.
Well, and plus they wouldn't be attracted to you.
No, they wouldn't. And no, they wouldn't. They wouldn't have found me yet. Although I used to have mobsters come, but that was years ago. New Jersey mobsters. Yeah, they had that, but not anymore. Not here in Woodstock.
Well, and even so, I mean, are the New Jersey mobsters really awful?
No, they're stupid.
Okay.
They're stupid.
That's a different
Stupid.
word.
It's a different. Yeah, they're not awful. It's just that I had some really stupid things. But yeah, I had a whole mob families come. It was silly. It was really stupid stuff. God, I could really write 3 more books. I think I'm going to. And it's all going to be on TV. So.
Well, that'll be okay.
Changing names to protect the innocent, of course.
Well, I don't know. People know who they are.
They bet they know. And karma, it all comes back in the long run. Yeah, I don't. And the important thing is not to ever regret, really. We all do the best that we can at the time we're doing it. And people are carrying regrets for years and years and years, and there's no need for it. What are you supposed to do?
And sometimes you do something that you think is right, and then 20 years from now you look back on it and you think, boy, that was kind of dumb. But at the time, I mean, and then
it seemed okay.
20 years later, you're
At the
more
time.
mature.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel a little less mature than I was 20 years ago.
Well,
I think hopefully it's going to get that way. Maybe I'll Benjamin Button myself younger. I think that's happening.
I agree with you, and I think it's
Really,
because I am so questioning of what is happening.
Yes.
And it's like, how can this be?
Yeah.
How can this be that I don't feel as mature because I don't have the answers anymore? And I know that probably the answers I had then weren't any good anyway.
I'm just going to disconnect myself from the outside world and pretty much just do my thing and watch what happens. I'm not part of it.
Our town is not the same.
You bet it's not.
So we're all going through a shift.
Yep.
Yep. The Hudson Valley's going through a shift. And hey, we've got the pandemic. That's a shift. And when I think about, has anybody come to you questioning the causes of the,
Yeah, all the time.
What are the answers?
I think humans did it. I think humans did it because there's too many humans. I think it's just because there's just been too much. They weren't taking care of the earth. Nature did it. It twisted up in a mutation.
That's what I think too.
Yeah.
I think this is the
a way to
planet
get
saying,
rid of it.
I've
Goodbye.
had enough. Mm-hmm.
It's the planet's a big dog that's shaking off its fleas, and it's gonna keep mutate until it gets to a more reasonable. People are saying, well, there's so many people dying because there's more people here than there's ever been before. That's why there's so many people dying.
Yeah.
And and we've destroyed the planet. Destroyed. It's shameful. It's
Yeah.
what do you expect? Throwing garbage in the ocean and doing what you're doing, killing everything. I mean, I'm not a big lover of humans, I have to say, and then people who know me know this, and peace and love and all that. It's no. There's no peace and love if this is happening. It never. The people have ruined. Humanity has ruined the world. So maybe it's time to go.
Well,
sorry.
And maybe, it's like, I think it's going to last no matter how many shots
it'll
we all
come back.
have or
Oh,
don't
yeah,
have.
it's going to come back.
It's going to
going
last
to.
until it's cleaned up.
And maybe get our boosters. I mean, I am. I'm going to be smart, and then when it ends. I'm not going to clean. What am I so fearful of? If you lose your physical body, you go on and move on to something else.
Yes.
I actually want to say, what's the big deal?
Well, it's a terrible death.
I'm not dying of COVID.
Right.
If anything, the world's just going to blow up, and that's it. I have there was a client who committed suicide, and he was doing some research into the world, and he was a shaman, and he wrote something that his mother found after he died, and he said in total, I think it was 2037, total destruction of the world. That was his prediction. And when he said total destruction, his mother brought the papers to me that she found. And it made me, some people, the soft way of reading this might have been, like, she asked me, she said, could this be the downfall of, like, the technology breaking apart and all that? And I said, it could be, but it could also be the world imploding.
Mm-hmm.
And I said it, and she's like, that's what I think too. I mean, how much can we go on with the climates and stuff? What do we think? We're not going to have another ice age? That the templates are not going to be shifting? The weather's crazy. And what, we don't think we deserve this? Sorry. I don't mean to be negative Nelly over here, but is it? Well, on that note, we got 3 minutes. Bye, everyone. And Merry Christmas.
That was great. Well, listen, tell us again how we can get in touch with you.
Okay, it's Susan, if you want to, after I just said, the world's ending. Anyway, and happy holidays. Anyway, Susan Fiona Saxman at gmail.com, I think, .com, whatever, Gmail. Yeah.
Thank you
Woodstock.
so much for coming, and I look forward to seeing you December the 31st.
And we'll still be here. The world will still be here. Or will we?
That's
we
fabulous.
Will. We still will. We'll be here.
We'll be here.
We'll be here.
We'll be here.
All right.